The rebellion reached its climax. David's forces clash with Absalom's army. And though David wins, the victory is overshadowed by the death of his son. The first part of the chapter covers David prepares for the battle. Okay, David organizes his army into three divisions: Joab, which is commander; Abishai, which is Joab's brother; Ittai the Gittite, the loyal foreigner. David wants to go with them, but the troops insist to stay behind for safety. As the men march out, David commands, "Be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake." David's fatherly love outweighs his kingly judgment. Okay, the second part of this chapter covers the battle in the forest of Ephraim. David forces rout Absalom's army in the forest. Okay, 20,000 men died that day. The forest itself swallowed up more men than the sword, suggesting chaos, terrain, and maybe even divine intervention. God uses creation itself to fight for his anointed, okay? The third part of his chapter covers Absalom's hair becomes his trap. Absalom rides under a large oak tree. His head, likely his famous long hair, you can check that one out in 2 Samuel chapter 14, gets caught in the branches, okay? His hair gets caught in the branches. He hangs suspended between heaven and earth while his mule runs away. A soldier reports this to Joab. Joab rebukes him for not killing Absalom, then takes three javelins and thrusts them into Absalom's heart. Okay, then of Joab's armored bearers finish him off. Despite David's plea, Joab executes Absalom, prioritizing stability over sentiment. Right, the fourth part of the chapter cover Absalom buried, memorial noted. Joab blows the trumpet to end the battle. Absalom's body is thrown into a pit in the forest and covered with the stones, okay? A note says Absalom had built a pillar for himself earlier, okay? Yeah, a note says Absalom had built a pillar for himself earlier, since he had no surviving sons. His pride ends in dishonor. No noble tomb, just a heap of stones, okay? The fifth part of the chapter covers the messenger run. Ahimaaz, the priest's son, wants to bring news, but Joab sends a Cushite instead. Ahimaaz insists and runs by another route, arriving first. He tells David vaguely. Hold on. He says this vaguely. All is well, God has delivered us, but doesn't mention Absalom's death. The Cushite arrives and says clearly, okay, "May the enemies of my lord the king be like that young man." David realizes his son is dead now. Okay, so the sixth part of this chapter covers David's grief. David is overcome with anguish. He weeps aloud. "Oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if I only had died instead of you. Oh, Absalom, my son, my son." The chapter closes not in triumph, but in one of the most heartbreaking cries in the scripture, okay? A king torn between victory and fatherhood. I gotta admit that when I read that the first time, I felt sad. I almost cried, but I didn't cry, but I felt more emotional. What are key lessons from this chapter? The first one is leadership sometimes clashes with love. David wanted Absalom spared, but Joab chose justice and security for the nation. Second lesson, pride can become your downfall. Absalom's hair, once his glory, becomes his trap. Third lesson, sin leaves strategy in its wake. David's earlier sin, which is covered in 2 Samuel chapters 11 and 12, rippled through his family, ending in grief. Okay, the fourth lesson of this chapter is God purposes stand even through human failure. Despite rebellion and heartbreak, David's kingdom is preserved, okay? So David's army defeats Absalom's forces, and Absalom himself dies in humiliating fashion, okay? Caught in a tree, killed by Joab. David wins the battle but loses his son, weeping bitterly in one of the Bible's most emotional scenes, okay? If you enjoyed this video about the shepherd, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel, and drop a comment here, and I see you in the next one.